Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer and listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. I'm coming to you again with another brand new episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We always want to bring you impactful, life-changing information. I have a guest, it's not a first-time guest, by the name of Thobo Khathola. You'll learn a bit more about him in a second, but what I'd really like for you to do, please, is to strike that subscribe button. We need your support, and if there's any among you who want to collaborate with us in terms of partnerships and so on, and any kind of collaboration, please contact our, my PA, Mr. Andile, on 397-1368. 397-1368. But let's get to the meat of what we are here about. We're here to talk about the roadshow, aren't we? For those who don't know you from before, sir, just tell them who you are and introduce yourself briefly.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mogobe, for this opportunity. My name is Thobo Khathola from a company called Lion Tutoring. We offer private tutorial services. We have an app which is like Uber for tutors, which connects your students and your tutors all throughout the world. So basically, the purpose why we're here is just to talk a little bit about our Investment Roadshow. We're raising capital through the sale of shares through our corporate finance team.
Okay. Just just tell us the business model in general. What is Lion Tutoring all about?
So Lion Tutoring is a tutoring company. We tutor students from primary school to tertiary levels, all subjects, all syllabi. So we basically just connect students with tutors either at the comfort of their home, or they can come to our centers for the tutorials. So our app is the one that actually does all the connection. It's an AI. So the same way you'd order an Uber, our app does the same thing. You just connect your student and your tutor. As soon as the student pays on the app, and
there's Ubers and tutors.
Currently, there isn't Uber, but there are some companies which are doing the same thing as what Uber is doing.
All right. Now, you've been here previously. Tell us about your previous appearance and what impact, if any, that had.
Yeah, our previous engagement was an exciting one. I think we came 2 years back, and we did get quite a number of people coming into our website, asking for more information. So it got the right eyeballs. And quality, I've noticed that most people that follow this podcast are people that really understand what they want. So we've got a good number of people, coming into our websites, inquiring to get tutors for their children, and also homeschooling. We also offer homeschooling, so we've got quite a number of interest on that.
Okay. Just tell us about your footprint. Where are you active and operational?
So our head office is actually here, just behind that building called Central Square, opposite the new mall, the Fields Mall. So that's where our head office is, and we have branches throughout the country. We service students as far as Francistown, Palape, and we also have another South African head office in Sandton, Bryanston. And our app is actually operating everywhere, wherever there are students, wherever there are tutors. We've engaged with students as far as Nairobi, as far as Cape Town, as far as Canada, Toronto, as far as the UK's. Okay. That's basically our footprint.
How did you make it to the cover of Forbes, for those who don't know? Because I remember it was a huge sensation when it happened.
Yes, so the class of 2020, I was privileged enough to be on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. There were only 20 of us, and it was the first time for Botswana were on the list, and I went also onto the cover. So it was quite a sensational, good achievement for the country, a good achievement also for our continent and for Botswana, and just us as young entrepreneurs. It was a huge milestone.
Is that what led to Forbes actually coming to Botswana? I think it happened recently.
Yes, I think it was the engagement for the Forbes Summit. I think it was also fueled by having 4 of us, on the list, because it wouldn't really make sense if we are hosting an event and none of us Botswana are on the list. So I think it was one of the contributing factors for us to be on the list and also hosting the event. And I hear that the country wants to host the event again in the future.
And for those who may not understand, maybe such as myself, what benefits are there of having a company like Forbes camp here and have a summit in Botswana?
Well, it's just the Forbes list. I think I'll talk more on that. I mean, it's a huge a huge network. You have your richest people in the world, your Bill Gates, your Elon Musks. All those are profiled by Forbes. So once a young Botswana is also part of that list, people as far as Americans, the European countries, they know that there's this entrepreneur in this country. So it's a huge networking event for as far as the event is concerned, and there are a lot of pay points that you can get. Yeah.
Wow. And we're now talking about the road show. First, before we talk about the road show, what is the thinking behind the road show? What is the impetus behind it?
So for us, we've been really growing the company organically for the past 5 to 7 years, and now it's the time when we really want to expand. The infrastructure is there. I mean, right now, if you just get into the Google Play Store, you are able to get the Lion Tutoring app. You are able to do business with us. But now we saw that it's something that we want to also open to the rest of the world, because there are not many companies that are doing what we're doing or have the technology that we have. So, with raising capital, it will help us to really get into other markets, and it will create jobs for your local Botswana. Because if we have tutors in UK, in Nigeria, the Botswana office is going to be here supporting, offering user support to the clients that side. So we really want to get into other countries, get customers in other countries, and really provide jobs for our locals.
And what would you say are the key objectives in terms of deliverables that you hope to attain?
So the biggest thing for our investors is we want to return their investment.
Yes.
I mean, no one wants to put money and not get anything from it.
Yes.
So I think that is one of the key deliverables. And we've done it over the years without any investment. I mean, for us to grow to the size that we are today, with the number of employees that we have, the operations that we have, it's about time that now we release some equity and give investors opportunity to create some wealth, through our operations and get into other countries. I mean, there's a Setswana saying that so you want to get other people, Botswana investors, some skin in the game.
Okay. And now, if somebody was to say, give me a truncated form of your pitch, what are you pitching to the public? What did you say?
So we're basically pitching, the main thing is scalability. We're scaling a technology, we're scaling an operation that has been tried and tested. I mean, we're not a startup.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We've proven our track record, and we want to, get this investment so that we can be able to grow it into other markets. We're looking at shedding of 30% equity into the company. Right now, I mean, it's not a secret. You can get into the SIPA website and see that Mr. Thobo is the only 100% owner, of which I'm inviting other people to the table, to the party, so that we can be able to take this Botswana grown birthed company into other countries. And we're already doing it. I mean, in South Africa, we started 2 years back, and we're servicing clients as far as Midrand, Centurion, Pretoria, Cape Town. They're sitting there on our books. So we are telling the investor that this is an opportunity for us to take a Botswana company and put it out there.
Yeah, and I think there are two key things that I picked from what you're saying. One is the IP behind the company, and the other, of course, is the app. Can you talk about those? What is this about the IP aspect that gives value to the company?
Yeah, so with the IP, we are actually pending on getting a utility patent. So this utility patent is just to connect students and tutors through our technology. So the code, we've developed this code from scratch. It's not something that was already developed, then we just put our logo and resell it. It's something that we've sat down. We've sat down even with our customers to say, what would you like to see an app doing? And we are constantly developing that app. So we'll be.
So the app is is your IP. I mean, it's a registered, if you like, copyright, a patent.
Yes. The app. We also have our website, our e-commerce site. So wherever in the world that you are, you just go to the website. It will show you the tutors which are available in your community. You are able to select your tutor, pay on the app or on the e-commerce, and then we release the tutor to your house. And also the system, we also have a very huge back end which allows our employees to interact with the clients. So our employees are able to, it's a CRM, customer relationship management tool, that allows us to send codes, send invoices. Our employees are able to go there, apply for their leaves. It's very interactive. We can even go there and create timesheets for our students, such that every lesson that the student attends with our tutor, the parent is able to sign on our platform. It's even able to alert the parent, even if you are in your office, it can tell you that the tutor just came to your house, the lesson is ongoing. After the lesson, it will tell you that the tutor has checked out, the student is checked out.
And then the billing system is also
there. The billing system is also there.
Embedded.
Yes, if a student reschedules for whatever reason, it's able to compensate for those lessons that were missed. So some of the things that we've registered, and we are also patenting internationally.
Okay. The challenge for the not so sophisticated investor is, how do you value all this, and how did you come to your valuation? Even if you don't mention numbers, but what are the considerations?
So basically valuing this, they also look at other companies which are doing this globally. Because once the patent is pending, once it's issued, anyone who tries to do what you are doing will be infringing on your patent. So it's either they pay royalties to you, or you can even sue them. So once the patents are issued, as they are pending now, once they are issued, you are the only one who can do that. Whether it's a patent, Botswana, Africa, globally. So anyone who tries to get into your space will be infringing. We've seen companies, sell out also their patents. As I know, there are some Singapore students that were registering patents whilst they were students. And big companies like Samsung had to buy those patents from them for millions, if not billions of dollars. So once you have a patent, you are the only one who has the rights to do what you're doing.
Okay. Now, you're a graduate of the Tshipidis mentorship program that's organized on the Botswana Stock Exchange. Tell us about the program and how did you wind up in part of it?
Oh yeah, that was an excellent program by the Botswana Stock Exchange. We started our journey with them through the Botswana Youth Awards. So we won Botswana Youth Awards 2018 and 2017 and 2018. And they were the sponsors for our award. So that's where we started having these negotiations, talks, and it ended up with us being part of the Tshipidis mentorship program. So it was very important that we as SMMEs know how we can list our companies on the stock exchange, how we can take our companies from private to public. So it has really helped us. They've shown us all the regulations, they've shown us all the legal people that we need to know, all the legal processes. We even had people as our Ramachandran coming through, Mr. Otapatu, telling us, what is
Tshipidis.
From Tshipidis, yes, showing us what is good governance, what do we need to do from a good governance point of view. We've had Remajinda from Bawa, the CEO of Bawa, come through, showing us this is how we need to report our financials, good governance, etc. So we had people who are actually on the field. It wasn't just lecturers coming to teach us theory. It was people who are actually doing this on a day-to-day basis. And we also were introduced to sponsoring brokers. Imara Capitals, Capitals were there to tell us, if you are now getting into the stock exchange, this is how we can help you as a sponsoring broker.
There's a myth that when you go public, you're bringing too much attention to yourself, too much scrutiny. I don't know whether it's a myth, but there's that belief. What do you think? Is it a myth?
Yes, it's a reality, because once you are using people's money, you have to account. You have to be accountable, and I think there's nothing wrong with public scrutiny. It's actually very welcomed, because if you are hiding nothing, if you are doing things the right way, there's nothing you need to hide from the public. So I think scrutiny is a good thing. As you can see, once you are listed, you need to be providing your audited financials. The public has to know what is happening. You have to have a board of directors. You have to be accountable to those people. So it's a good thing. As long as you are not doing anything which is out of the box. I mean, it's a good thing to be.
You mentioned to me earlier that there are 3 levels of listings. What are they, and why did you choose Tshipidis?
So I think with the Botswana Stock Exchange, I think this is public knowledge. There's the Tshipidis mentorship program, or the Tshipidis board, and there's the venture capital board, and there's the main board. So the first 2 I think were designed for SMEs. They are not really stringent in terms of audited financials, in terms of turnover, etc. So really anyone can be able to participate in that field. Then there's the main board, which you have your big companies like your Tshipidis or Lerumo who are listed on the main board.
And you chose Tshipidis because it is not as hectic as the ultimate one.
No, I think for now it was just a mentorship program. We haven't listed as of yet.
Okay,
so
but
maybe
that is the plan.
That's the plan. Maybe after a few years, if our investors want so, because a certain investor can come and say, no, I'm not interested in you going public for the next 10 years. So it will just depend on our investors. But listing is a very good liquidity event, that if investors are part of your company or invested in your company, they can be able to get a good exit by virtue of going in the
Is that what the plan is?
That's what the plan is over time, but our investors will dictate.
Okay. Now, you want to raise what percentage from the public?
So basically,
from the investors.
From the investor, we are basically letting go of 30% of the company currently. So we're in talks with different asset managers, even the angel investors of Botswana, if they want, they can come through Mogobe. So we're looking to let go of 30%. But if there are any lucrative offers, we can sit down and have a negotiation.
Are you able to tell us about the valuations of this product?
The valuations, I won't be able to share the information because it's quite confidential with our corporate finance team. But at the end of this podcast, I can even leave our corporate finance advisor's number, such that if there's anyone who's interested, we can book a meeting for the Investment Roadshow. Okay.
So you're raising, you're parting 30%. That means you want to retain 70%. Is that in perpetuity, or that also would be considered for disposal at a later stage?
I think, the biggest company, I know they always say, having 100% of a peanut is not in your best interest than having 1% of a watermelon.
Yeah.
I think
It's a good
you
one.
know, over time we need to be releasing more equity. Some of the biggest companies, you find that the founding members have less than 7%. You know, as you can see, your Facebooks, your Googles.
Bezos is what, 14%?
Bezos is less than 20%.
Yeah.
So over time, really, we want to make this big. You know, this company should really be knocking on other doors in other continents. So the only way to get there is if we can have more people joining the table.
Yeah. So really, does the company plan to expand to the point where it will become a brick and mortar type of institution, or it will essentially retain this element of tutoring? What is the long-term plan?
The long-term plan is really, you know, right now we are more of a tech company. So we also have big data. So most of our customers, we keep them in a huge database, and we end up now selling anything and everything to them with their consent. So right now we are also in a campaign. We're doing swimming lessons, we're doing guitar lessons. So the plan is not to have brick and mortar, because brick and mortar is very limited. But wherever in the world you are, if you're in the UK and you want a Setswana tutor, and there's a Setswana tutor 2 kilometers away from you, you just pay, then we talk to our tutor to go to your house on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Setswana lessons. No brick and mortar required there. But the brick and mortar is to have our head office. So we need to have a very strong head office locally, which we are able to now offer good customer service for our. Then it's just the side. We are looking to expand our head office so that we can work 24/7. Because if you are sleeping here in Botswana, you find a client is awake in another part of the world. So having a 24/7 head office is in our best interest.
Would you say there are any cons? You mentioned the pros to going public.
Going public is a good thing. I think I'm more sold after joining the Tshipidis mentorship that, you know, there are very good advantages of going public. The only, I would say, disadvantage is the public scrutiny, of which you have to be always, you know, auditing your statements, meeting with your board of directors, making sure that everything is to the point. So I think I would just like to encourage SMEs out there that if you haven't started doing that, this is the perfect time before you go public or you want to list. You have to always make sure that you are held accountable. So that is, accountability is the biggest, and we are already doing it.
And what's the process involved in becoming part of these programs that BSC is you just apply? Is that it?
Yes. We started applying 2 years back. I mean, we got rejected the first and the second time because obviously there's numbers. They have a shortlisting process. So I think it's just an application. They normally release a memo around May, June. So if anyone out there is interested, it's just to apply and then we can get feedback.
Okay, so you don't quite ready. You are not quite ready to go public, but you're looking for institutional funding. You're also looking for angel funding. You're looking for VC funding. Why don't you just go straight to the public? I mean, why are you not ready?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question, but we preferred to actually go private first, because even when you go public, there's still a private placement that needs to be done through your sponsoring broker. You need to reach certain milestones and thresholds, because we don't want to also take public funds and not be ready for that level of scrutiny. So this is a good way. We don't want to delist after we have listed. So this is actually
transitional.
It's our Series A funding, then we also have Series B funding, and then once we are there, we can now be confident to say, bring the public funds. We have all the structures in place to be able to report, every now and then and make a return on their investments.
Okay. You're obviously ready for angel investing, or at least you intend to pitch for that. But what about venture capital funding?
VC funding, the disadvantage of being in this part of the world is we don't have a lot of venture capitalists. Mostly is your private equity funders. But if there are any VC firms, this is we are actually.
There are some which are operating in South Africa who are active in Botswana. I know for a fact that a company like Alpha Direct, for instance, has got VCs. Who funded, who invested in this.
So if they are there watching this podcast, please do call us, do let us know so that we can come. We already have our corporate finance team in place. We already have our investment memorandums in place. Our pitch decks are in place. So if anyone is interested, I'll leave a number for our corporate finance team so that we can come and pitch.
Okay. I've been had some VCs saying Botswana companies are too small. The ask is too small. When you start talking in Pula, let's say for instance you're asking for 20 million. When they convert that to US, they think it's peanuts.
1.8 million.
Yeah. So to what extent is that a barrier for international funders?
It's a huge barrier because the main important thing is the valuation. So anyone can ask for 50 million or 100 million. But what is it that you are valuing the company at? And value not just to say, no, anyone can say, I value my company to be 100 million worth company. But now when we start looking into the balance sheets, when we start looking at the assets, when we start looking at the income statements, what is the turnover, we fall short. So I think that's one of the problems. But there's also crowdfunding for other parts of the world. They'll have a crowdfunding to say if you can't raise 100 million alone, perhaps if there are 10 companies, they can have that crowdfunding and raise the 100 million.
Okay. You mentioned this earlier, but I think we need to clarify again your regional and continental footprint. Which markets are you active? Pre round one, you said, and then which markets do you want to move into post
Series A? So right now we're very active.
Series A. What the situation is and what it will be after the round.
Right now we really spend a lot of time into getting the infrastructure in place. Because it's a very scalable app. Wherever in the world you are, if you have your Android device, you can be able to download the app.
Even
Apple, we are working on it, and it's quite expensive, but we are working on it, getting the code into the Apple devices. So it's also work in progress. But wherever in the world you are, you can be able to download the app and get your tutor. So right now, we're servicing the Botswana and the South African markets. Kenya, we have a few clients here and there. UK, we also have a few clients here and there, but those are the two most active countries. And after raising our Series A, Series B, we can be able now to take it to UK. We are targeting all the countries which have Cambridge as their secondary education. So your IGCSE. So you're talking the UK, you're talking Singapore, you're talking most of the African countries which have been colonized by the UK. They have the Cambridge qualifications.
What's so difficult about getting into the Apple system?
It's not very difficult.
Why is it lagging behind?
It's just that most developers are Android developers. So they build the code it's a language. So it's like having your mother tongue in Setswana, then you write a book in Setswana. It's just a case of now translating that book into English, into into German or any other language. So it's not that it's difficult, it's just that most of the developers are Android developers. So once we've perfected the code in Android, we can now translate it into the iOS language and have it.
And how long is that process?
I think by next year this time, all Apple users will be able to download our app.
Okay. Suppose someone is watching you at home and is thinking, look, I've just landed into $500,000, but I like this young man's company. I want to invest. What would you advise them to do?
I would advise anyone out there who would like to invest into Lion Tutoring, especially institutional investors.
I'm talking an individual.
Individuals will get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
On a private level, they might want to be private investors.
Yes, they can talk to us, corporate finance team. They are called it's a company called Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
They are listed in the Botswana Stock Exchange list of advisors. Our number is 74714
Say that again.
74714
Mm-hmm.
You can speak to Mr. Today from Stonehenge Company.
Okay. And he'll find a way of.
He will definitely find a way to go for a meeting, go for a pitch, and then we can obviously have that negotiation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the way these fund managers work is they want to pool the money. Is that the idea? They don't want direct one-on-one investors.
Yes, we don't mind whichever way. So if it's an individual, that obviously some high net worth individuals that we also obviously have conversations with. But once the deals are already in place, once there's term sheets, we stop talking to other. We stop entertaining other offers for that period of time. And Mr. Totten will be in a very better position to advise as to which process we are in.
Now, we know that IGIC is even prevalent in Asia. What is your appetite towards the Asian market?
We have a huge appetite for the Asian market in terms of English lessons, because we've seen that there's a huge uprise in terms of Asians wanting to learn to speak English. So that is something that we have a lot of tutors currently in our system. We have qualification, TEFL, it's teaching as a foreign language.
English as a foreign language.
Teaching English as a foreign language, So we have a huge appetite for that market. And we also have tutors who also learned Asian languages like Mandarin. They're able to teach somebody who has zero English in their vocabulary. So that is another area that we're looking into.
So potentially, how do you break it into a place like China, Hong Kong?
You just get there and you get your hands dirty. I mean, it's the same method that we'll use to break into a market like South Africa. Highly competitive. There are very huge barriers to entry, but we made sure that we penetrate into that. So it's just to get in there and figure it out.
Does one have to have local partners?
Yeah, most definitely. It's a huge advantage to have local partners. Once we've raised our capital, it will be easy for us to get into those local markets, get local partners. We also considering things of also investing into other companies who are in those markets or taking over their business. Buying out some of those companies and actually working with them, because they also have an active database of students.
Okay. Just from the point of view of your competitors and the competition, would you encourage other people in your space to also think about going public? And if so, why?
Yeah, there's huge advantages of going public, but I think for every entrepreneur, that's a question that they can answer for themselves. But once you are going public, you have capital backing. You don't have to have worries about startup capital, about expansion capital. So it's really a huge advantage. And I hear most of my age mates or SMMEs always crying to say there's no capital. But once you go public and your company allows that you can go public, there's more advantages than disadvantages.
And it's not as difficult as people think.
No, it's not as difficult as people think. I think the Tshipidis mentorship program has really showed us that it's very possible. Because once we look at the stock exchange as something that is very difficult to get into, but once with all that information, and there are very good people that even if you are not in the part of the Tshipidis mentorship program, you can just book a meeting and you can get information regarding that. Their websites are also very detailed.
What is the plan for the roadshow specifically? Where do you intend to go, and where can people find you as part of this roadshow?
So we are The roadshow is actually active. So as we speak, we've been having meetings with different asset managers, with different private equity managers. So like I said, our corporate finance team, they are in a better position to be able to schedule our roadshow. So Kewaneba Stonehenge, the number is 74714
Yeah. They're the ones who know in terms of the schedule where you're going next.
Yeah.
Will it get to a point where you'll be like BTC when they listed, where you want to quota meetings and so on?
It will get to that. I think it was also good to inform people out there, but we will get to that point when the time comes when we are going public. Yeah.
Okay.
But with the BTC, they did a good thing because they've allowed every Motswana to participate, and they used our sponsoring brokers, which are Imara Capital. So nobody there will be in a good position to share with us the details to say, once we are going public, how do we get Motswana to invest into Lion Tutoring? It's through the sponsoring broker.
Yeah. And that's another thing when you mentioned Imara. A listener at home may not know the importance of having these key professionals. So who would you say are the key professionals to have in your team to be able to push this process forward?
So number one is the accountants and auditors. They put everything in terms of the books in place. And then
Does it have to be one of the big five?
No, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I think once you have the Botswana Stock Exchange list, there are quite a number of auditors that they recognize. You have to have a good legal team, so there are legal advisors recognized by the Botswana Stock Exchange.
You have a list.
There's 2 or 3 pages full of different company lawyers there, or attorneys, company attorneys. Then you have your different corporate finance teams, like ours is Stonehenge. But there are many, there's 2 or 3 pages full of corporate finance advisors. They help you with the valuation, they help you schedule these meetings, and then your sponsoring brokers.
What does the sponsoring broker do exactly?
It's like your Imara Capital, any other.
What do they do exactly?
They are the brokers, they are the ones in between collecting Mogobe, Khathola, putting it together and trading that stock with the Botswana Stock Exchange. So that is why you need a sponsor.
They collect.
They are the ones who
collate the resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you are public. Once you are private, you don't need a sponsoring broker. You just need a meeting with your investor, and once the investor is happy, they invest into the business.
So it sounds to me like you have to really invest quite a bit of money. I mean, these professionals don't come cheap. Do you have to invest quite a sizable amount?
You have to invest quite a number, but you have to be a good negotiator.
As well.
Because some of them would say, these are our fees, but you can obviously come to the negotiation table and say, listen, I'm an SMME, this is where I'm at, this is what I can afford to pay you, and then you have different incentives to say, once we get the funding, you'll get X%, give us a once-off payment of this amount.
Okay. Let's talk about the international market more broadly. We mentioned a little bit about China, Asia. How far can this thing go?
With our app, really, it's any market that we want to get into. So every time we get into a market, we do a thorough research. We appoint a company to really assess the size of the market, assess the competitors, and look for a niche that we can place ourselves into that market. So it can really go anywhere, but it's not like we are shooting and spreading ourselves too widely. We are targeting certain markets that we know.
What about Canada and Australia? Both were colonized by Britain.
Yeah, I think right now, since from South Africa, the plan is to get into the East African market, which is your Kenya, and from there we're getting into the UK. UK is in our 10-year plan. Canada is also Canada is in our 10-year plan to get into the States. So the plan is to get into Canada and eventually get into the American market. But that is more of a long-term goal for us.
Yeah. You don't mention West Africa, you don't mention Nigeria.
We haven't mentioned Nigeria because it's not in our plan.
Or even Ghana.
It's not in our plan because we also look at the participation in terms of technology because it's a D2C brand, direct to consumer. So our consumers have to be really tech savvy. We also look at the research as to how many e-commerce transactions are made by that population. What are the data costs, etc. So there's a whole team behind that then we map into.
Because there have been people like MTN who've gone to these markets I mentioned and they exploded literally.
With MTN, they are more of a USSD as compared to e-commerce. We are more of an e-commerce, so we need people with smartphones. We can't do business with people with Sedilani. It's another segment that there are companies which are. I
thought smartphones have spread quite a bit in West Africa.
Yeah, I think, but it's not part of the plan. The plan is the East Africa because with East Africa there's technologies like M-Pesa, where people literally everyone has a smartphone. Literally everyone has internet because you can have a smartphone and no internet connectivity. It defeats the whole purpose. So we also look at the country's participation in terms of e-commerce transactions.
And now, in the last 2 years since you've been here, what would you say is the biggest change in terms of physically and actuality for the company? How has the growth been?
For the past 2 years, I think we just came here just after COVID.
2020.
In 2020, and between then and now, I think the most important thing was for us to get over the recession that we are in as a country, and just to keep afloat. But I think we've really grown from that point to where we are now. In terms of also employees, by that time I think we were just below 300 employees. Right now we're approaching 500 mark of employees in Botswana, in South Africa, in other countries. So I think we've really grown from the.
I suspect that when I interview you 2 years from now, you'll be at 1,000 plus.
That's where we want to go. Where we want to go. We really want to make impact, and we want to make sure that most of these employees are Botswana locals. We don't want to import or we don't want to export jobs, because that's what most companies do once they start expanding.
That means even when you get into a market, you get the locals for that market.
We get the locals, but we want the Botswana to be the ones managing those locals. So if we get into a country like Switzerland, we want the Swiss to be tutoring the students there because they know the local syllabus, etc. There are teachers in Swiss schools, but we want the Botswana to be able to manage that Swiss local to say there's a lesson coming up. How far are you? So we don't want to hire more people out there, but we want to hire more local Botswana.
And how ready are they? How ready are our locally trained tutors? How is the education system delivering in terms of finding good quality tutors to do the work? Locally,
we have excellent tutors. We have excellent young people, young Botswana. It's just that the world does not know that they are there. They are pushed, they are driven, and it's just our country. Maybe we don't take more chances on young people. But I think we have the best. The generation also coming after us, the influencers. Some of the best content you will see on the internet is coming from Botswana. So I think we are there, we are ready. We need to take a chance on them. They will disappoint, it's a given, but which country wouldn't want to take a chance on its young people?
Of course, that's very uplifting comment, because there's sometimes a sense of despondency that we are not driven enough, so that we are not, the education system left them half cooked and that kind of thing. We hear a lot of those sort of comments.
Just to add on that, I think we've done a good job, our country has done a good job sending some of us overseas. I'm sure Mr. Mogobe's generation, we've seen a lot of people trained outside, coming back. So in terms of the skill is there, But there's a narrative that Botswana are lazy. I don't think Botswana were lazy. I think they are just discouraged. Things are not moving the way that we want. You'd have somebody with a PhD, master's degree, unemployed for a couple of years. That they now start taking odd jobs. You'd find this person is a management accountant with the most highly skilled, but the system is not able to absorb them. Then they get discouraged. It's not that they're lazy, they're just discouraged. So I'm thinking Lion Tutoring is the right place for them to be, for us to get them activated again.
Yeah, because do you offer also some kind of personal development or motivation for them, do you?
We do. Our HR office is quite great, and we also work with other HR and industrial psychologists, such that we are able to motivate our teams. We are able to motivate even our learners, our students. We have partnerships with some Kenyan companies, with some local, because most of the students, they perform badly because they are not motivated. So we hope in some of these, because it's not something that we do. So we'd rather partner with somebody who does it excellently.
So you offer specialized classes just to deal with personal development?
Yes, we have one-on-one personal development, and also we have psychology, educational psychologists, which meet with our students. Some of the students, they have learning disabilities like epilepsy, like autism, ADHD. They probably have ADHD. And we have educational psychologists meeting with them and also helping us to give them the right tutor. Because a child in that state can't just have any teacher or any tutor. It's not a one size fits all.
No, it can never be. All right. Now this is the part of the show where you get to ask me a question. Do you have a question for me, sir?
Yeah. So with the past experience I have from Mr. Mogobe is, do you think our company is investable?
Not only is it investable, it's scalable. We look at two things as angels before we look into a company. Investability really depends on the ability of the management team. It also depends on the skills that are available. And the limited impression I've had with your company, having sent my children there and having interacted with you at different levels, is that you meet the investability aspect. Scalability you've already shown by going to other markets such as South Africa and intending to go to East Africa, that you are indeed scaling, you are indeed growing. And in just 2 years, you've almost doubled your employment, from around 200 and something to 500 in the space of 2 years. So you tick those two boxes for sure. And there's no question about it. And I think insofar as this roadshow you've started, and I'm glad you started with us here at Mogobe Nuggets. We really want to encourage you, keep going for it, and I'm sure the market will respond positively to your efforts.
Well, thank you so much, sir. And we hope that you will invite us for one of our pitch sessions.
Absolutely. You told me that you've filled in the forms, because you have to go to our website as Angel Network, and we're actually celebrating. The reason why I'm dressed like this is that I'm giving one of the keynote speeches in our third anniversary celebration today, later on today. So we're really excited that in 3 years we've invested in so many startups, and we're in a position where we are getting more and more involved with startups. But before we go, there's a new development which I wanted you to comment on, that of the creation of the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, and also mainly that, because it goes in with the reset agenda by HE. And I almost forgot to ask you about that, because it's an interesting subject for me. What is your take?
Personally, it looks good on paper, but like any entrepreneur, it doesn't hold anything unless it's implemented. So you know, Mr. Mogobe, as entrepreneurs, you can have a good business plan, you can have a good plan on paper, but until you now get into the streets and start working with entrepreneurs, it will just become another ministry or another good initiative by the government. But looking from what it is on paper, it's very excellent. It's I'm sure they've done it with a good heart to help Botswana, but now it's the implementation.
Yeah, because if you read the recent speech, that is where the rub is. That there's a little bit of civil service sabotage coming from the lack of implementation. Is it still the problem, or is it something that you think is going to change?
We'll have to see. I think time will tell. But I think my challenge to the government of today is that we are here as entrepreneurs. We need them to put the plow to the work. We need to see them come into our offices, asking us what the challenges are, not just for ticking a box, but to actually bring solutions and help us. So only time will tell, but I'm hopeful. I'm a Christian, I'm a very prayerful person, and I believe that God has put these people in the seats to do the better good for all of us. So I pray that it actually works.
Yeah, and that the reset agenda really kicks in.
Yes.
And people change their mindset.
Yes.
So that's what it's about.
That's what it's all about.
Now, as we conclude, can you look at this camera set and leave the viewer with 2 or 3 motivational messages related to what we're discussing as we conclude?
Absolutely. So thank you very much for watching the podcast. I would just like to encourage a young person out there that, let's keep pushing. We are the best young people in this world as Botswana. We have all the skills, we have all the education, we have all the drive. Let's not give up, let's keep pushing. And watching such podcasts, I watch all the podcasts of Mr. Mogobe. There's so much wealth of experience that we can be getting from the 2 generations ahead of us. So let us keep watching, let's keep pushing, motivating each other. God bless you.
Okay. Do you want to give them all the contact details, including on social media?
Yes.
Where they can reach you and also reach your team? Yes.
So you can get a tutor wherever you are. Gaborone, Palapa, Francistown, South Africa, by just accessing our app. So if you get into the Google Play Store, you just search Lion Tutoring and you'll see the app. But do follow us on social media. It's at Lion Tutoring. Our office number is 316-4276. That is 316-4276. And if you want to invest into our business, our corporate finance team is handling our roadshows. Their name is Stonehenge. Their number is 74714-999. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. WhatsApp? Did you mention the WhatsApp contact?
WhatsApp also, yes, 71964536. You can just send a WhatsApp hi, or you can send tutor, then we'll get back to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.